Hello guys, today we're going to talk about how many miles per gallon you can expect out of your Toyota Dolphin RV. Mine has a 3.0 liter V6 and automatic transmission, so your mileage might vary. I'm also going to give you some driving tips on if you use it as a second vehicle or just driving around town. So let's go inside the mobile fourth gear office and let's get into it. So let's talk about mileage on the Dolphin RV. So as I said in the intro, my RV is the chassis is a 1989 Toyota truck, and the RV is actually a 1990 because when manufacturers buy the chassis, it's 1 year, and by the time they finish the RV, it could be the next year. So it's titled as a 1990, but my manual for the truck says 1989. So it has a 3.0 liter V6, which is rated at 151 horsepower from the factory. It has a 4-speed automatic transmission, and the fourth gear is considered an overdrive, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And it has a 17.2 gallon fuel tank, which is basically the same as a regular truck, and that has some effect on how far you can go on this RV with a full tank. Again, I'd be really interested to hear from owners of the manual 5-speed V6 motorhomes. See if somebody's out there, and that would be something that I would have preferred, but you can't pick and choose. And also owners with the 22RE engine, the 4-cylinder, and see what kind of mileage they get, because it has less power, but it's a smaller engine, so I don't know. Anyway, all right, if you're looking for the total, if you're looking just for a number and you just want to get the heck out and watch the next video, so here it is. My highway driving average is 14.2 miles per gallon. My in-town driving mile MPG is 11.5 miles per gallon. That's what I get driving around town. Now, if that's it, if you want to just know the actual numbers, that's it. But let's get into more things about the mileage and some of the things that you can do to improve your mileage, or maybe some things that you should know if you're gonna drive one of these RVs, because they're underpowered, let's face it, but they have enough power to get around, in my opinion. And I think you can use them as a second car, which is in the brochure from the Dolphin, which I have, and I'll cover that on another video. But yeah, that's one of the selling points of the Dolphin, is that you can use it as a second car. It's questionable, but it's definitely doable. So now let's get into the details of how I was able to give you those numbers. So first thing you need to know is that I'm anal about data. Like, since I've had this RV for over 4 years that I've been driving it, and 20,000 miles, I keep track of every single fill up everywhere I go, and I jot down the mileage. I use an app. It's the Gas Buddy app. This is not sponsored by Gas Buddy, but if you want to use it, it helps you get the better or the best rate for gas, and it also helps you manage, or understand your mileage. So I use that. And what I did is I was able to download all my information from them, and I put it into an Excel spreadsheet so I can give you all this information. So, okay. So now let's get into it. Where did I get the highest MPG? It was obviously highway driving, but where exactly? So my highest MPG was actually 17.3 miles per gallon in Grand Junction, Colorado, followed closely by Richfield, Utah at 17.1. And the best way I can explain that is, this was in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. So what I would do, I would get behind a semi going uphill, and I would just sit there and go their speed, on the uphills. And I would use a little bit of drafting to keep the wind off of my RV. I was in no hurry. I didn't need to pass anyone, so I just got behind the semi on the uphills. On the downhills, the RV would just go miles and miles and miles without me even touching the gas pedal. And that's how I got 17.3. Of course, I was going the speed limit on the way down. I wasn't speeding, and I was actually going pretty fast. But uphill, I was basically following semis at their speed. So that's how I got that. In Utah, which is Richfield, Utah, yeah, I had some very favorable winds, and I covered that on episode 8, I think. Anyway, so I had like long uphills, but then I also had long downhills and favorable winds, and that also helped me with the mileage. So that's how I got the best mileage possible. Episode 8, I think. Okay, so now the lowest MPG that I got was 8 miles per gallon, and that was in Chula Vista, California, which is in San Diego. And I also got about 8.1 miles in Gilbert and 9 miles per gallon in Miami. Those are like the 3 lowest miles per gallon. Now, in San Diego, what I was doing, I had the RV there, and I would fly in from Miami to San Diego, go to the beaches, go hiking. I really loved hiking. I went up to Cuyamaca Peak, to the mountains, and so I would take the RV there and drive it around the city, and also go to the beaches in San Diego. So that explains the poor mileage, because going up in the hills, and driving around town, those are like the 2 activities that will yield the lowest miles per gallon. The next one is Gilbert, which is, of course, where the RV was, and I was using it there when I went to check on it, visit family, etc. Driving it around the Phoenix area. And crazily, like a lot of people think Miami's traffic is crazy, and it is, but it's different. Like Miami's traffic is very crowded, very stop and go. People don't use their turn signals. It's just kind of crazy. But on the highway, on I-95 or the 836 to Palmetto, people go like 55, maybe 60, maybe 65. Please excuse the noise, because I'm in a park area, and so there's people going by. So Miami's driving is a little more chaotic, but people really don't drive super fast, like maybe 55, 65 miles an hour. Now Phoenix traffic is more orderly, less chaotic, but people, my God, people drive like 80 miles an hour down the just the roads, and it's like everybody's in a hurry, and I don't know why that is. So those are the 2 factors that also influence the lowest mile per gallon. Stop and go, and then having to keep up with traffic in Phoenix, 80 miles an hour, whatever, on the 202 or the 101 or the 10. So now let's talk about the cheapest gas. So the cheapest gas that I got was $1.99 a gallon in Gilbert at the Costco in April of 2022, and in Yuma, Arizona, where I have family, also in April of 2022. And I thought, what happened during that time? And if you remember, the pandemic started just like a month earlier, and people were just staying home, not going anywhere. So gas prices went completely down, because the demand was so low. So that explains why I got $1.99 gas at that time. It was super cheap, and so that explains the lowest price. Now the most expensive gas was at the same Costco in Gilbert. Crazy enough, it was $4.84, almost $5. That was crazy expensive, and that was in May of 2022. Now I thought, okay, what happened around May 2022? And I think what that was, it was just after the pandemic, when people were like started to drive, and there wasn't enough supply in the system. Also, the Ukraine war had just started. And I remember oil prices went up by a lot, because they thought, are we going to get oil from Russia, whatever. So I remember prices just kept going up and up and up every day, and $4.84 was what I paid. I thought it was going to be a California thing, but it wasn't. The second most expensive was for $4.19 in San Diego. So that's probably the reason why it's the most expensive. In San Diego, I was parking the RV, same thing. I was flying in, driving between Miami or San Diego and the mountains. Now, there's some other notes. So this RV I use regular on every fill up, except in Utah and Wyoming and Idaho, where I use mid-grade. And the reason for that is because I covered this on episode 11 of the series. If you want to look at that, it was basically the lowest grade there was, I believe, 85, and I was used to like 87, and I was afraid of pinging, and so I said, I'm not gonna chance it. I'm not gonna use the cheapest gas. I'm just gonna use the mid-grade. And so that's why I use mid-grade in that occasion. I used premium once in Salt Lake City when I left my RV for 51 days, and that was also covered on episode 11, where I left the RV for 51 days, and I was afraid that maybe the fuel was going to get stale. It didn't, but I used premium that time just so I could avoid that. Now, as far as fuel ups, like how much fuel did I take? And this was interesting because my highest take was 17.3 gallons in Henderson, Nevada. Now, the RV has a 17.2 gallon tank, so I took 17.3 gallons, and oh my God, like what happened? Well, this was covered in episode 5. If you look at that episode, I was traveling from Sequoia to Las Vegas, and I really wanted to get to Nevada before I filled up, because the Nevada prices were going to be significantly cheaper than California, and I was like running on fumes and pushing it, and I made it. It was the middle of nowhere, and I think I must have gotten there with like just the fuel in the lines, because I took in more than a full tank, 17.3 gallons. So that was, kind of, if I ran out of gas, that would be my fault, because I was expecting that. But the second time that I took the most was in Fort Stockton, or actually the second time was in Junction, Texas, where I took in 16.8 gallons, almost full capacity, and Fort Stockton, Texas, 16.2 gallons. And this was not planned. What happens basically when you travel across the U.S. on I-10 and you leave El Paso, you enter the void of East Texas, and it's just horrible, because I mean for an RV, for this RV, because it's dreadful, because the state of the road, like there's some areas where it's really bumpy, really poor condition. There's high winds that you have to contend with from all different directions, and there's long uphills and some downhills. It's probably the worst driving for the RV that I've done ever. Utah has long uphills, winds, etc., but the roads are fine. Whereas in East Texas, my God, the roads are like horrible. So there's no gas stations also. So Grand Junction, Junction, Texas is like the first town that you come to after driving miles and miles, and I was really pushing it. I really shouldn't have done that, but that's how I ended up with like almost no gas. And Fort Stockton, Texas, also in the middle of East Texas, that's where I filled up before, and I was like running really low. So lesson for you kids: if you travel East Texas, fuel up, fuel often, or take a spare gas can, because you may need it. So those are the two. Now, I haven't covered the trip that I made from Phoenix to Miami. Took 3 days, 2,500 miles. I did that in the RV, almost nonstop. That's how I learned about East Texas. So, but I'm going to cover that in another video, just to show you that Toyotas are really, they're not gutless, as one subscriber said. They are gutless in terms of no power, but they really are plucky. Like, they'll get you there. So kudos to Toyota for that. So On flat roads, how to maximize the MPG. On flat roads, I use slip streaming or drafting, when I can, and it's really very limited times when you can do it. You just stay behind the semi, and I'll cover that on the video. So you stay behind the semis are usually going slightly over the speed limit, so you stay behind them, use their wind blocking so that you can be behind them. And be very careful. Don't do it if you have to be really attentive. You can't fall asleep, so do it at your own risk. I don't recommend it for most people. I did it, but that doesn't mean you should. Be very careful, very attentive, but that's one way to increase mileage. Cruise control. I have never used the cruise control in my RV. Why? I've used it on other vehicles that I've had, not the new smart cruise control systems that we have nowadays, the adaptive ones, but like the old ones are basically just designed to keep a certain speed, and they work off vacuum, engine load, etc. for different factors, and their goal is just to basically keep the speed. So I don't use it. It does not give you the best miles per gallon. So why? Because if you think about it, it's a dumb device. So let's say you're driving down the road and you have a slight downhill, but then you see a small uphill on the horizon. Well, you as a human, you can say, oh shit, I'm going to get to that uphill. So you can like speed up a little bit on the downhill to give you momentum to carry you through the uphill. And then when you reach the uphill, you can see how far it is, and you can maybe let the speed drop a little bit, and as you crest the uphill. Well, that's a smart, predictive way of doing it, whereas cruise control, it's just a dumb thing. It doesn't know that there's an uphill coming. It'll just try to like keep up speed. So it actually does the opposite. When you're going downhill, it tries to hold you back, and then when you're on the uphill, it tries to speed you up, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to do. So that's why I don't use the cruise control. Now, for mileage, don't use cruise control. Of course, for comfort, for convenience, if you want to use it. The other thing, now let's talk about the overdrive. I've read where a lot of people don't use the overdrive because they say, oh, you're going to burn up the engine. The transmission. Look, it's designed to be used. Like, what can I tell you? So the overdrive kicks in my RV at around 55 miles per hour, maybe 60, sometimes a little bit earlier. And I try to just keep it on the after the overdrive kicks in. That doesn't always happen, because you'll be on the going 55, 60, 65, and then you get a small uphill, and then it has to kick down into third gear. So that's it for the video, guys. I hope you had so you got some good information about the MPG on the Toyotas, and maybe you got some pointers on how you can improve your own Toyota. I'd be interested to hear what owners of other Toyota RVs get in terms of miles per gallon. So thanks again for watching. There's links on the video to other playlists that we have on the channel. Subscribe if you want to, and again, I'll see you next time.